Welcome to Connections Count, where we talk about everything from work, life, and everything in between. I'm your host, Melody, and I'm thrilled to have everybody joining us today. And I have a wonderful guest with us that I think all of you will resonate with, and I certainly do. I actually know her from way back when. We don't need to get into it, but we grew up in a wonderful little cow town by the name of Medway, Massachusetts. So welcome, Rhonda Mazzola. And Rhonda, not only are we going to talk about, our past and everything of that nature, but why I have Rhonda here today is it's about the earth for me. It's about connecting with the environment and food and sustainability. And why I'm saying this is because Rhonda and her husband bought a beautiful farm called Silent Meadow Farms in Connecticut. And we're going to talk all about that. So welcome, Rhonda. I'm so glad that you're here today.
Thank you, Melody.
So, let's just start from the beginning. So did our upbringing impact you, do you think, about the farm?
Not at all.
Okay, great.
It's funny, when I was younger and a kid, I didn't really want anything to do with being outside.
Okay.
And I'm even talking as a young adult, when my children were in elementary school, they would go to the babysitter's house and they camped all summer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not vacation. No way. My idea of vacation is a hotel and room service.
Oh, you sound like my mother.
So, yeah, I really wanted nothing to do with getting dirty.
It's interesting that you say that, because I didn't have my first, other than Girl Scouts or brownies or something like that, I didn't really have a big camping experience either until I was an adult and I was with my husband. And we went out with friends. It was just like a big party event. But yeah, I didn't do that as well. And it would have been a hotel.
Exactly. That was, or a cruise or something, fancy, and you could dress up and put on makeup and do your hair. That was really how I felt about being outside. But what changed is when my first husband and I bought a little house, and I had to maintain the outside gardening, and it just exploded for me as a passion.
Wow.
And, I'd spend all day
I
outside.
can relate with you. Getting your hands in that dirt and just, for me, is just energizing, and it's grounding. I know that sounds kind of weird, saying those two words in the same sentence, but I feel invigorated when I'm actually planting and I'm in my own world, and I just feel grounded with the earth and everything that's surrounding me. Whether it's the insects, the birds, the bees, all of that, my animals. But so tell our listeners, right? Because this is so fascinating for me, because I don't know if I could actually own a farm, because it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. And my husband jokes, so I'd like to buy a farm out in the Midwest. I said, honey, farming is extremely difficult. You got to have a real passion for it. And it's just, you got to love it. Right. Because, you're not going to make a lot of money doing it.
None.
Okay. So help our listeners understand. So tell us about Silent Meadow Farm. How did you get it?
Okay. So my husband and I were renting a small studio apartment, and it was a basement apartment. We had 2 fish. And we were renting from his parents, and COVID hit, and they came home and they were living upstairs from us, but it was just really too crowded. A COVID situation, they're older. We really had to try to separate. And it just really got to be, a big house got to be a lot smaller when you have to separate
and
like
risky.
That. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You're worried about what you might be bringing in or not,
right.
et cetera.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we did have a small home up in Maine that we would go to every weekend, but it was really just not, it was too far. And
was it a year-round home?
We did go year-round.
Oh, okay.
We would rough it in the winter. We'd drain everything, but we'd go up and stay anyway.
So you like nature. You like to be, okay.
Yeah, that home, we bought it because I really wanted land. I didn't care what the house looked like. The house was actually really adorable, but it was super small. It was 800 square feet.
Okay.
And that was more than enough for me. because we spent 90% of our time outside.
Of course.
You know, we with trails in the woods and everything else. But we only owned that home for a year.
Okay.
Because we bought it in 2019 and in 2020 COVID hit.
Okay.
And we decided that we wanted to get something closer.
Yep.
So we started looking and came across Silent Meadow Farm.
Oh, first, I love the name. I do. I love the name of the farm. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hysterical. The name of the farm was the prior owner's name, and I asked if we could keep it, and she said, yeah.
Okay.
But there's nothing silent about a farm.
That's
nothing silent at all.
Any brook or anything, maybe? Like,
There is a little brook way in the back, but
not with all the animals.
No. It's pretty loud.
So you buy a farm in the middle of COVID, right, and start your farm life. Wow. I mean, that's a big pivot, big change, but I think a lot of people made decisions during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's something I should say, once I discovered being outside, I'd always wanted more gardening space.
Sure.
It's just never big enough for me. And so when we saw the farm and we both decided, yeah, this is awesome, and it came with barns. Okay. And I had always wanted chickens.
Did they have animals?
Yeah, she had horses and goats. Okay. And I had always wanted chickens, and I always kind of toyed with the idea of goats. So, we just jumped right in. We knew nothing. Yeah. And I like to tell people, don't feel like you can't do something like this, because I knew nothing about chickens. I knew nothing about goats. Yeah, I knew nothing. And I was like, what if I feed them wrong? Or, I don't know. What do they need?
Well, it's the unknown, right?
Right.
But you got to start somewhere.
You just jump in. Yeah. They're living things. And
it doesn't mean you have to take on an abundance. You can start small, right? One or two, maybe half a dozen.
That's what normal people would do, but we didn't do
you're
that.
Not normal. I love it, Rhonda. You're honest. That's great.
We just, what it is. It's so funny. I remember my mother and David's mother both going, "You guys are getting too many animals too quick, because we just started off, we adopted a cat, a 16-year-old cat, within 2 weeks of moving in. And we didn't have her long, but it was a rescue situation.
Yeah.
And then we got the chickens. And David always wanted ducks, which I didn't want ducks, but they're pretty awesome. I do like them.
Okay.
So we ended up getting a bunch of ducks. And then so we bought the house in end of July 2020. And by December, we probably had 20 plus animals.
That's fast. That is fast. I can see what they're saying.
It was a lot, yeah.
All right. But you're loving it.
Oh, yeah.
You're loving it. And they're your animals. I mean, they're not, they are your family.
They're our pets. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people, kind of assume because we're a farm that we're going to.
That's why I wanted to make that clear. Yeah. These are your family, your pets.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. No. I'm all for, people who are living sustainably and they want to raise their own meat. I actually might go that way at some point, but I'm not there yet.
Well, and that we need those farms, right?
Absolutely.
We have those farms that are out there. There's a name and it escapes me, and I apologize, audience. But it's when you get a bunch of people that would buy into the farm, right? And they would all get their fruits and vegetables.
A CSA.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I knew it would come, right? We need those, right? And we need farms that, have animals for us to eat and things like that, if that's what you choose to do. But I wanted to make it clear. These are, other than eggs.
I do sell eggs. Yeah. Okay. I sell chicken and duck eggs. But, it's really a small audience of people that I sell to, because we have 18 chickens and 14 ducks. Although, to my husband's dismay, I just doubled our flock and brought in another 16 chicks.
Oh,
actually 18 chicks. I was like, we went to the feed store. I said, "Oh, can we go to the feed store? I got to put my order in for the chicks." And he's like, "Oh yeah," and he made the mistake of waiting out in the car.
Of course he did.
And Chicken math is real.
Dave, take note.
I come out to the car and he's like, "Oh, what did you get?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got, a couple of this breed and a couple of this breed, and they didn't have this breed that I wanted, but I went with a mixed breed." And then I was like hoping he wouldn't ask. And he goes, "How many did you get?" And I'm like, I'm like, 18. And he's like, "Oh my God, you just doubled our flock. What are you doing?"
I love it.
I'm crazy.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we have chickens, we have ducks.
We have chickens, we have ducks, we have guineas, which are really cool. They're one of the reasons it's not silent meadow, though, because they are very, very loud.
Okay. Talkers.
Yeah, a little bit. And they're also the bullies of the barnyard.
Okay.
We have turkeys and one goose, mother goose, and she's fantastic. And she sort of lords over all of the birds.
Okay.
And she actually is almost like an alarm system. If somebody pulls in the driveway, I know.
Oh, that's
before
great.
the dogs even bark, she's going.
That's great.
And then we have 2 pigs and 7 goats.
What about a rooster?
Well, yeah, I included those in with my chickens. We actually have
Just because
we have 3 roosters: Rocky, Daryl, and his brother Daryl.
Oh, I love it.
You older people will get that reference, but
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, that's the animals, but you also grow.
yes,
Right?
yeah.
You have a phenomenal green thumb and a greenhouse. Right? And you're farming with tomatoes and plants and sunflowers. And I mean, I want you to talk about it. It's just phenomenal. It's like a jungle when you go there during the
Summer.
peak season growing time.
It's funny. I don't know if like all gardeners are like this, but when I go to somebody else's garden, I kind of have like gardening envy. Like, oh my gosh, the garden is so perfect. And my garden is not perfect. My garden is really chaos. I try to be, but I guess maybe that's just not who I am. I love my garden, don't get me wrong.
It's gorgeous.
It's like going into like the Jungle Book. But like everything's growing on top of everything, and I can't pick a volunteer. And if you don't know what a volunteer is, it's a plant that grows somewhere that you didn't put it.
Okay.
Like seeds from last year or a seed fell. And so I have tomatoes growing in with my squashes, and sometimes you can't even get through. It's kind of that crazy, but
think about all that food and those flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. You can go out there and do cuttings. You can go out there and grab your dinner for, especially if you like to eat a lot of vegetables and things of that nature. I'm in envy of that. That's what I'm in.
It is awesome. I have to admit, I mean, the gardening, to me, that was like the biggest thing in buying the property. The animals were really almost, I always wanted chickens. Mm-hmm. But, now that we have them and I'm experiencing it, I absolutely love it. Again, they're all pets, but we do get benefit. We get eggs from all the birds, and we get poop from just about everything.
Right,
and
which is great.
If you don't know about poop, poop is amazing. Not people poop, but animal poop. Barnyard poop is some incredible stuff. I love composting.
Yep.
It's just kind of science. It's fun.
But you need that, right? We need to do, and we should be doing more of that.
Yeah.
And we don't.
I think the big thing that a lot of people don't realize is that the most important thing about your garden is your soil. Mm-hmm. Soil is number one. It's got to be healthy. It's got to be full of worms and biodiversity, all kinds of life, bad bugs, good bugs, birds, everything, So the soil is number one. I love making my own soil, although I do buy a lot too. I have an obsession with dirt and seeds. And poop, but I don't have to buy any poop.
No, you don't.
Poop, you can come
manure,
over
you have all that you can get, which is great. And of course, let's not forget about our baby boys, right?
Oh, yeah, Amos and Brutus.
That's right. We got the boys in the house.
2 dogs. We actually have 4 dogs.
Oh, 4.
4 dogs and a cat in the house. No, Mom moved in. So Mom moved in with her Chihuahua Pepper and her Maltese Ruby.
So let's get this straight, Rhonda, right? So you're working in a normal job in, I believe, the insurance industry, and you are in an apartment or a studio with your husband. Pre-COVID. Now we're in COVID, we buy a farm. you retire, right, from work. Now
I
you
kind of had to.
Yeah,
I couldn't go back to the office.
No, well, not with all these, farm life and animals and everything that you're doing. And now I just heard you say your mom moved in.
Yeah.
Wow, what a change in life. But you know what? I think it's beautiful.
I do
right?
too. I love it.
They say a lot about family and again, coming back to where you come from. And we come from, I believe, the earth, right? And we're just resonating. And so family means everything. And just to have your mom there, the ability to be able to have your mom there.
Yeah.
Whereas a few years ago, you were in an apartment.
Right.
And you wouldn't even have been able to do that.
Yeah.
And now you can go out and I just think that whole thing is just meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm all about, things align the way they're supposed to, even when we don't know that they're going in that direction. And this was just in the cards for you, the stars.
Yeah, it is. We and like regarding the house, when we looked at the farm, and I said to David, I don't really even care what the house looks like. I said, I just want this. I want this land. I want this land. I want to be able to work it. And when we looked at the house, the main area of the house is not much bigger than our house in Maine. It's probably 1,000 square feet. But then there's this little area off to the back where there's this tiny, tiny living room and a good-sized bedroom. And, we put a door up so mom has her own separate space. We weren't really even using that space.
That's a great idea.
It worked out perfect.
It's almost like an in-law studio.
Exactly. The only thing missing is maybe a little kitchenette and a bathroom, but, we're all
Common
sharing.
area.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's
so,
beautiful.
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes too with my parents. They actually just recently downsized during COVID. Actually, it was just last fall. They sold their house in New Hampshire. They had relocated to Peterborough after a few moves, but they had a beautiful home in Peterborough, New Hampshire. It was gorgeous. But my mom has a connection with the water, right?
A lot of people do, yeah.
Just can't be far. So they sold the house and they're actually living in an apartment in a 55 and older community, like 5 minutes from the ocean, which she's thrilled about. But the point is that she decided that she wanted to downsize and start that process now and get to where she wants to be. And then I hope, God willing, if something ever should happen, that maybe I can do the same thing, like have an in-law apartment or something that they would want to come.
Right, yeah.
Because family's everything, Well,
again, I think I don't know, again, if this is like part of the whole COVID thing, but I think that people are getting back to basics. Yes. And taking care of family is really important, especially our parents as they get older. It's kind of, I think it's coming back with the whole homesteading movement and the whole grow your own food movement, again, which really took a boom with COVID. People are really...
They reprioritizing.
During COVID, we lost a lot of elderly people within nursing homes, and I think people would rather take care of their own. I'm glad that David and I are in the position that we can have mom live with us. Yeah. She's very independent still.
Oh, yeah.
But, she was living in a very big house all by herself, and it was just time for her to get back to family, and we're very happy to have her.
Yep. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I do agree. If there's a positive, there are some definitely negatives, but if you can find a positive that came out of it, getting back to our roots, getting family back together, remember there were a lot of people doing board games and all kinds of things. And I thought that was just, beautiful.
Yep.
Going out and doing movies in your yard, or, it really brought you back to basics, which we had strayed from.
Yeah, really lost sight of it.
We did, So, again, I love the idea of the farm. I think that's great, although it's very hard work, right?
Yeah.
And you're realizing that.
It's something that when I discovered gardening in general, I wished if I could change anything about our buying Silent Meadow Farm, it'd be that I'd be 20 years younger.
Yep.
Because, I'm 50, I'll be 58 in June. And just starting this lifestyle in my 50s, both of us, David and I, it's a lot of work.
Backbreaking.
It's backbreaking. And, I have sore muscles where I didn't know I had muscles.
And I bet you have a lot of sleepless, stressful nights too with those babies because, they are family. So you worry with the environment, the storms, and, just taking care of them and making sure that they're not sick and, all of those things.
We do have, now we have had some predator issues, and having these types of animals, we live in Thompson. Yeah. It's a farm community, but there's a lot of woods. And, we do have coyotes and bobcats and possums and raccoons and
fisher cats.
Rats and rodents and fisher cats, minks, weasels. So it's like, you worry. And I don't know that too many farm people do this, but David and I, we have baby monitors in the barns.
Oh, I love it.
And we have cameras in the barns. Okay. And we have this big fake owl that, at night its eyes light up and it moves its head and it makes noises.
Anything you can do to deter.
Yeah, we have automatic lights everywhere because, there's nothing worse, and I can promise you this because I've been through it, there's nothing worse than getting up in the morning and going to let your babies out and finding some did not make the night. Yeah.
It's got to be horrible.
Yeah. So we've lost, let me see, a total of 6. Oh gosh, I can't even count.
You probably don't want to count.
Yeah, we had a whole brood of turkeys that our neighbor's turkeys that actually laid eggs in our rhododendron bush. And so I called him over. I'm like, hey, Roberto, look, your turkey's going to have some babies. Like, oh, I don't want any more. I said, oh, just leave her. So we let her sit on the eggs, and there were about 21 eggs. We ended up, they don't all hatch, things you learn farming. And so out of the 21 eggs, we got maybe 8 hatched. And by the end of them growing up, we got 2.
Okay.
And that was, it's a horrible thing, rat issue. Another thing, growing up, you don't think about I hate rodents. I know I love animals. Everyone has a right to live, but not in my barn. I don't like rats or rodents. They kind of freak me out. Yep. Which is something you have to get over, having a barn and birds. And they're horrible. They eat your birds. Right. But we've also had a mink episode where we lost 5 chickens. And
so it's not for the faint of heart either.
It isn't. I mean, just this past week, we lost a little chick that passed away. It seemed like it was doing great. Wake up in the morning and it's not doing so good. Right. So you do learn a lot about life and death and how to handle that. I will say, though, our animals are very spoiled.
They gotta be.
People probably think it's certainly not a profitable, at least the way we do it. All of our animals live together in the barnyard. Nobody's separated. The chickens sleep with the goats. The pigs sleep together.
It's communal.
It's a big community. Yeah, the ducks are in the middle of the barn, but in the morning everyone goes out to the barnyard and they all live and
do their thing
together. Mm-hmm. But every morning we also feed them frozen corn and peas and heat them up in the microwave, get them all nice when they love
look
it.
Look at that, spoiled.
A big bag of corn and half a bag of peas every morning, and then they get kale in the afternoon.
Kale.
So our eggs are delicious, by the way.
I love it.
I had 2 eggs on toast this morning that were literally laid this morning.
How fresh is that? That's
it doesn't.
Unbelievable.
Well,
hey, for the audience that's following us or listeing to this episode, if you haven't had a duck egg,
they're delicious.
You need to have a duck egg.
Yeah, they are. They're fantastic. And people kind of get freaked out. They're like, ew, a duck egg. Like an egg is an egg. Mm-hmm. I've had a goose egg, I've had a guinea egg, I've had a duck egg, I've had a turkey egg, I've had a chicken egg. They all pretty much taste the same.
Just the richness.
They're bigger and richer. Yeah. A duck yolk is huge and
creamy.
Yeah,
yummy.
It is. It's fantastic. Also, the duck eggs and goose eggs, and I'm not sure, but I think the turkey eggs, definitely the duck eggs have an additional enzyme in them that is actually supposed to be really good for cancer patients.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep, very, very good. And some people who are allergic to chicken eggs can eat duck eggs.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
And some people who can eat chicken eggs just fine have trouble with duck eggs. And I'm not saying you're not going to die.
No.
But you're gonna have some digestive issues.
Yeah.
You're not gonna feel good for a while.
Gotcha.
But really,
well, it's great to know that there is a possibility of switching them out, perhaps, if you have dietary issues.
yeah, try them.
So that's
try
nice.
them. Yeah, they're fantastic. They're so yummy.
The other thing that for our audience listeners that I learned from Rhonda is when you have fresh eggs, you do not wash them.
No.
If you want to leave them on the counter, unwashed, if you do wash that skim that's on them.
It's called the bloom.
Thank you very much.
A bloom.
The bloom. Then you will need to refrigerate it.
Right.
Because that is keeping it from going bad.
Yeah, the egg is actually airtight, and that bloom keeps oxygen from entering the egg.
Yep.
And so if you wash that off, you have to put it in the refrigerator. And I was reading recently, too, that the eggs you get at the grocery store, by the time you get them, they could be up to 2 months old.
Wow.
You know,
think about that.
That's nasty. The egg I had this morning was probably an hour old.
Oh,
it was really
so
good.
delicious.
Yeah. So we keep our...
And you know what you're feeding your animals and all of that.
And I know
so.
that they're not living in, cage-free.
Right.
People are cage-free. That sounds great. Cage-free is really just a bunch of chickens living in a barn, and they're still in a really overcrowded... basically our chickens, our birds are pasture raised, and they used to be like full free range. They could go out of the barnyard and they would go to the neighbor's house and they would go across the street.
So we had issues?
Yeah, the neighbors didn't like it.
I was thinking predators. I wasn't thinking the neighbors.
No, the neighbors didn't like it. So of course we respect the neighbors. So we put up a like bird netting around it's so funny. It just like raised the fence by like 3 feet with this netting, and the birds are like, oh, I can't get over that. I don't know why, but they stay in the yard.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, they are smart. So.
Yeah, they're pretty smart.
And then again, this is just the animals for the farm. I mean, you do grow tomatoes, you do all kinds of stuff in there. And again, I can't speak enough about what you do.
My gardening is an obsession, and I do garden 365 days a year. And a lot of people are...
And all by seed, folks.
Yeah. Well, I do. I can't resist a good farm store or nursery, and I will pick things up. But no, literally, my garden is probably 98% from seed. Yeah. But I'll find things here and there, and I'm like, oh, I like that.
That's dedication.
Yeah, it is. And I start planting my seeds in late January, February. I have tomatoes right now that are, anywhere from 1.5 to 2 feet tall.
Oh, that's amazing.
It is.
You're going to have tomatoes soon.
Yes, I hope so.
Early.
And then I have tomatoes that are 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm a huge garlic grower. I love growing garlic. To me, garlic is such a fun thing to grow.
And eat?
Well, yes.
Just double checking.
That's just a given. Everything has garlic in it. But I grow, oh my gosh, I should have counted, but probably, 15 to 18 different varieties of garlic. And I start those in the fall.
It's amazing that there's that many out there.
There's more. There's even more than that. It's like tomatoes.
Wow.
I mean, I'm probably growing about 25 different varieties of tomatoes, but there's so many more. And it's the fun thing about growing your own tomatoes is you're going to get tomatoes that you're never going to find at the grocery store.
That's true.
And even most farm stores. Okay. Because people go for the beefsteak.
Yep.
People go for the plums. But, I have tomatoes that,
I didn't see those common names in your list.
Dr. White Cheese Yellow. I have Orange Jazz. I have this one called Phil's 2. This is my first year trying this, but it's really it's like a whole clump of green tomatoes stuck together. It looks like a brain. I can't wait to try that.
Oh, that's going to sound delicious.
Yeah. And then I have all kinds of cherries. There's this one Barry's Crazy Cherry, and it's bigger than a cluster of grapes. There's so many little yellow.
Do you have sliced tomatoes with your breakfast?
I do. Sometimes.
I do too. Everyone thinks I'm weird. I'm like, I think it's delicious.
Yeah.
I don't mind having sliced tomatoes at any meal, but
anytime.
I don't know. I just I think I grew up that way.
Well, they're fantastic with eggs.
Yeah.
And you could take a piece of toast and put a little mayonnaise on it with a tomato and an egg and a little bit of, what are those little...
Chives?
Yeah.
Something of that. Yeah.
It's some type of green. And I mean, it's just fantastic. And there's nothing better than a homegrown tomato.
Absolutely.
The tomatoes you get at the grocery store, they're red. And there's no flavor.
Taste. It's
and
just right.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean,
how long has it been out there before it gets to us?
A lot of times they're shipped when they're still really green, and it's the turning of the red that gives your tomato flavor, or when they're getting ripe, because not all tomatoes are red.
So they're picking them early.
They're picking them early.
Transportation.
Right.
I mean, you're right. There's a number of reasons for that.
So I watched this girl on YouTube, and one of her famous sayings is, grocery store tomatoes taste like disappointment.
Oh, but isn't that true?
If you're a tomato lover, it is true.
It is.
And it's the same with garlic. There's a satisfaction that comes in growing your own food. It really tastes so much better.
So let's think about that, right? I agree with you, right? It's the time, the nurturing, it's all that love that you're putting into it. And let's also think about where it's going from.
Yeah.
The ground, the dirt, the earth.
All that poop,
which is what you just talked about, right?
Yeah.
Well, this has just been phenomenal. I mean, we could talk forever, I think.
It's my favorite subject.
And on about gardening and farming. And I'm sure there's other things to explore. I'd love to have you back later in the year. I'm sure we can talk about other things. So I'm just so thrilled that you were able to come here and talk to the listeners, Rhonda, and everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
And you can check us out on Silent Meadow Farm on Instagram.
That's great.
Lots of pictures of what I'm growing, lots of pictures of the animals, and we love company. So if you ever want to come out, just let us know. And I am hoping this year, the first year, to last year I sold tomato starts, but this year I'm actually going to try to have a little stand out front with some fresh tomatoes, a lot of my garlic. I grow the birdhouse gourds, all of these things, and my eggs. So
and flowers maybe?
Yes. Oh, I thank you for reminding me, because I'm a huge sunflower fan, and I'm hoping to sell them as well.
Right. Oh, that's exciting!
And so much better prices than the grocery store.
I bet. And again, it's that connection, guys. So definitely check out Silent Meadow Farm. Look for that farm stand that's going to be out front for all those beautiful, fresh, organic, natural products that she's producing, and take a look at those animals. They're great. Rhonda, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Melody.
Everybody, thank you for tuning into Connections Count. I look forward to talking to you again. Have a wonderful day.